Yo, 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 what is going on, RoK Familia? It is your boy BN, aka Mystic Kingdom Builder, and I wanted just to make a short video on our current jumper project. I just wanted to talk a little about it, and for those that are looking for a project, you're looking for one to join just to check out, to kind of compare against yours, right? I'll go ahead and give you some information here, and attemptively trying to keep this as brief as possible. Before we get started, as always, if you enjoy the content, make sure you sub, like, ring the notification bell. And of course, if you want to join and be a part of our conversation, hit up the Discord. You can find a link to that in the pinned comment description right down below. So in short, to kind of give you a current status update for where we're at, we have about 100 and I think 80. I think it's around 180 players minimum that have soft confirmed here. And one of the ways I do this, which I think is just kind of a creative way of approaching it, is, I go in here and I'll right click and I just basically type all these names in on the server just to make sure they're still there, and any that have left, or if they do not have a specific role that gives them access to this area, I'll just remove the reaction, so we kind of always keep it up to date. And I just actually updated this maybe about an hour before recording this video, so again, it is accurate. And so being able to show this off and players knowing that these things are always, I guess, just kind of kept in check, is nice to know, as far as if you're looking for some real-time numbers. With that in mind, we have a sign-off page here, which focuses on, really, I think, just the most important thing is when it comes to setting good, appropriate expectations early and being as transparent as possible. So, we have like your responsibility, right? I think it's really good, right? If you don't know, ask. This is something that I often find in projects where, it's so easy to make an assumption instead of just kind of asking a question to figure things out. Right? Obviously, if you're being here for this project, right, being here means that you are taking time to read, you're taking time to educate yourself on how this project is operating, how it differs from others, and joining it for the right reasons. The next one is the hierarchy, which essentially kind of has myself as more of a R6, if you will, above the R5 leads. And then you have kind of your department leaders, your officers, contributing members. And an important thing here, and I always like to clarify this as well, because I do think there's a little asterisk here for some context to provide. But it says here that essentially I'll have the final say at my discretion, which is an important note. Though counsel will be the start for all conversations, right? So the important bit there is that you are essentially having kind of your board of advisors, right? Which is your R5s, the R6, myself, and having just really good constant communication. And that's something that I think is, I don't want to say lacking, but at times I almost feel it's a little bit of a lost art form, because you really have to communicate. And it can't just be you guys chat, your leadership chats, once a week, or only chatting when things are going bad or when hurdles are coming up. You almost have to chat like you guys are kind of best friends, right? Or you're meeting up after school for club. Because if you can get to that point, then you're really getting into something special where, it's not just about you guys kind of treating each other as though you're coworkers, but it's more about, hey, we're developing some relationships, we're developing some friendships and some bonds. And that is something special. I can't tell you how important that is. And I've only ever had that in a few of my projects. And those thankfully turned out to be some of the best ones that I've ran. However, when it comes to kind of having the final say, what that really means is that you need someone. I truly believe this, is that you need someone, an individual who is there acting in one of their capacities as oversight, as someone who's supervising, as someone who is there in a form of kind of checks and balances to make sure that the project is not drifting or is not teetering from its, or teetering, I guess you could say, from its original goals, right? Its original promises. That's what's really important here. And that's one of the reasons why I think I always believe it's important for anyone who joins a project. You really have to look around. You can't just join a project and, be cannon fodder, so to speak, right? Or just another body. Really take time to read and educate yourself on what that project is about. And I often tell players, go and join other projects. Go and see how they are, and then you can compare it. And I will always I'll stack my project up against any other project when it comes to professionalism, organization, preparation before going into a kingdom, even once we get into a kingdom. right? I don't know anyone else out there, and this isn't a slight towards anyone. It's just I really believe in my product and what I put out there because I put a lot of time, energy, passion, and I guess just commitment to it. I think that's really what you need, if you want to try and have people believe, right? If you want people to kind of sign up and be on board for what you're doing. I just like to explain that part. And then, we do something like power balancing, which I think is really important. And this kind of has, I think, a lot of effects that can just be great net positives, not only for your group, but for the kingdom. One of the most important things that I think you really get from power balancing is that you get this amazing effect of a higher level of average participation. Not only when it comes to kind of AVA, Alliance versus Alliance events in the kingdom, you get general more participation for events within the kingdom that might just be for your individual players. You often will get better conversion rates when it comes to players willing to participate and wanting to participate in PvP. Whether that is you guys running, fun internal kingdom games, and or obviously the big one, which is KVK. And the reason why is because if you have alliances that are all around the same power, there's a level of belief that any alliance can win any alliance event, and any alliance can be that frontline alliance that can do work in KVK, that can really be of value. And that is a special type of feeling to nurture, right? To light a fire, if you will, for every player in a kingdom. And so that just kind of breaks down a little bit of it. Many active alliances. Obviously, we want at least 6 alliances in each. We want at least 6 alliances total, minimum, right? If we could get to 12 to 13, that actually would be even better. Hilariously enough, my first project had 15 alliances that started out, or I think it was maybe 13 or 14, then we got to 15. My second project had, I think, 11, and then we ended up getting, I think, to about 12 or 13. And most people might just think that's a lot, and that's hard to manage. It's not, really. Again, if you have a good structure and you have a good level of organization and a little bit of multitasking capabilities, probably sprinkled with some patience, you can really make it work, and it's actually glorious. So beyond that, though, that just breaks down a little bit. I'm not a believer in academies. I am a believer, however, in preparing farms and kind of migration shells, if you will, but essentially all alliances are mains. I just don't believe in telling people that they're a second string or a third string. I just think it's very, I don't want to say subjugating, if that may or may not be the right word, but it just doesn't really, it lacks appeal to me, and it almost feels kind of somewhat disrespectful. Then we have kind of a sign off and a region check. And this basically is just, if you click on the region, you're signing off and acknowledging that you've read everything and you're here for the right reasons and you believe in this project and what it stands for, over wanting to join another, in short. Some of the channels that you'll see here, right, we have kind of positions. So that way, if you guys want to go and apply, or if anyone wants to apply for a management level position, I think currently we have 4 leaders. So we're really just waiting to fill out 2 more. We have a jump plan, which kind of goes over some of your actual jumper account details. We have jump goals, which goes over kind of just general short versions of goals for the kingdom. Some great kind of one-stop resources here. I'm not a believer in having, 20, 40, 50 channels like sometimes I'll see in other projects. I think you can really summarize it into something simple where you're basically hitting at everything, and it just looks cleaner as well with how it comes off. And then we have a jump resume, right? So on here you can see my resume for Kingdom Builders, games like I've done here in RoK, Infinity Kingdom. Eventually I'll be adding Call of Dragons here too as well. But you can see here, and I'm really big on transparency, right? I think one of the things that we often do not see from almost hardly any. I mean, I at least at this point, if you were to ask me, boss, have you ever seen another project leader, another project founder ever list out their resume, their credentials, their history in running projects? I would tell you no. That doesn't mean that no one is doing it. What it means is that I've just never seen it. And one of the series I do is project reviews. And so at least for the last 2 rounds, looking at, I don't even know, 30, 40, maybe 50 projects that I've looked at, I haven't seen anyone, talk about or give you details, whether that's textual, historical accounts, and or a video. I have videos here for situations for kingdoms that I managed, and I have a lot of documentation just on my YouTube as well that helps just kind of provide that level of transparency. So I'm really big on that. And then we have a jump FAQ, very short. We have a Final Kingdom timeline, which just kind of breaks down, how it looks from our project. I think it's important, for those that may not understand kind of really what goes into the start of a kingdom. This is kind of a little roadmap here on what you can kind of expect for how things may or may not play out, right, in our project when we go in. We have a help recruit channel, we have a RoK bot, and then we have lastly our kind of jump meetings. And this is probably the other thing that I'm really always proud of when we kind of do our meetings, is that the opportunity is for everyone, right? So not only do we, hold internal meetings within our group, but we'll also hold public town hall meetings for every player in the kingdom. We'll hold a big management meeting, which is for all officers and leaders of active alliances in the kingdom. And that doesn't necessarily mean it's, for people that are, in a 1 mil alliance, for example. But if you are an active contributor and you're someone, even if you're, within the top 18, as an example, or top 21, right? As long as you're active and you have, a full active alliance of players that are, I don't want to just say playing, but we'll just say engaging, right? Then we obviously welcome, anyone and everyone. I think, I think when it comes to having a lot more alliances involved in those, right, we should be trying to give as many people a platform and a voice as possible within reason, and kind of is/as appropriate. And then we'll hold those, right? So we'll hold also kind of R6 meetings. We'll hold officer group meetings just internally, and we'll do kind of our global town halls along with general management meetings. I just think it's important to try and do those once a week, sometimes maybe once every 2 weeks, but the hope is really once a week. And doing things like trying to figure out time zones, I think is really important, right? What day of the week can you attend? What time of the day are you able to attend? These are just easy ways to kind of figure out how it would be appropriate to set a meeting day and time to try and get the max amount or the peak attendance that you could really get. And then I guess maybe some of the last things here would just be, maybe what sets our project apart from others. Well, I think I mentioned one already, being at the town hall. I think the other one would be educating and taking time to inform players. I think is really important. And it's not just, saying, hey, go and do this and that. It's really writing something up that's well-versed and does not come off like a wall of text and is easy enough for a new player to understand who doesn't know anything. And oftentimes that's a really good way to approach when it comes to, giving good information, educating, giving good advice, is, try and word things in a way where, where you don't know how much experience a player has. So doing it in more of a kind of a new player approach is always kind of better safe than sorry. And, providing good resources, I think, is important. Having a good solid level of organization and having a good foundation is something that I think all of my projects that have started out have always had. And I've always been proud of that when we go in. One of the things that I think is always a nice heat of caution, and no one is ever going to get around this, is that, no project can guarantee, myself included, that, a project is going to be 100% absolutely successful, or that, you're never going to have, bad situations, or, players that turn, or, leaders that decide they want to go and do something their own way. I mean, these are types of things that have plagued projects since, the days that project started. But going in with as much early preparation can really help mitigate a lot of that. And then I think the last one would be kind of our community, right? And this is something I've touched on before, but it is important to me that when you're going out and you're doing a project, you're really doing it from a standpoint of, we're trying to build something more than just a group of players that are going to go into this kingdom and, take over, if you will, right? It's really about building that type of social interactions and engagements with the players that are there, making them feel that what they're a part of is much more than them just being a player playing a game in an alliance within a kingdom. It's doing things that are going to help increase that engagement and the fun that they have where they're playing, because that's really, really at the end of the day what's going to get them to stay. Playing is great, and maybe for some players that's all they want to do, but more often than not, what I usually find is that a lot of players like to be social. They like to engage. They like to have fun and do events or do weekly get-togethers or get on voice or get on camera. Those are the types of things that I think is what we always try to breed the best ways that we can. And then I guess the very last one here that I'll leave you with is my level of accessibility and promise that I always make to everyone in my projects is that, my job, part of my job when I run projects is there is a level of responsibility and accountability that I have and that I choose to have for every single player that joins in any of my projects. In that, I will always do my utmost to make sure that we are not compromising our integrity and our promises to you, the players. Meaning that I will always uphold the direction that you as a player signed up for based on what I promoted, what I advertised, and what I sold to you as a player. Right? It's very hard when you join something, and I'm sure some players can relate to this. Right? You join something based on what its original intent and goals are, and then all of a sudden, arguably, let's just say simply out of nowhere, things change, and now it starts drifting away from really what it once was. That's just how you start losing people, and I'm just not a fan of that. And I hope for the most part others wouldn't be as well. And I want to point out that this is not the same as doing minor adaptions or things here and there. We're talking about kind of foundational pillars that is really what you promised players that you were going to do, and that's why they joined up. Or they joined up because there were certain people that were there. I mean, I've seen this in other projects too as well, where they loved that certain individuals were a part of a project, and when they left, they just lost interest and they didn't want to be a part of it anymore. So, again, I really like to state that, and I hope if anything, maybe that reaches or connects with some of you when it comes to those who really truly value integrity and the promises that ones keep and or make. So yeah. And then, as I mentioned with the accessibility, right, anyone is more than willing, right? If you want to reach out to me, you want to schedule a voice call, you want to DM me, you're more than welcome to. As I said, links to the Discord, my information is going to be in the pinned comment description down below. So that's it for me. And of course, if you guys have any questions and you want to leave a comment on the video, I will, of course, do my best to answer in a timely fashion. With that in mind, that's it for me. So as always, until next time, I'll catch y'all later.